I already had to run to the office this morning.
Why?
Had to get my ring
Oh,
light.
good God.
I woke up. I said, "Oh God, I'm gonna look terrible. I can't do it." I had to run all the way to the office and grab the damn ring light.
I think we're up, but I think you're frozen. I don't know if that's my
You
end or
there?
yours. Yep. Are you
Okay.
there?
Yeah,
You're
I'm good.
frozen. You're frozen. You're smiling. You look good, but you're frozen.
Okay. Well,
I
you don't have to lie to me. I already know how old I am, so you
mean,
don't have to tell me I
well,
look good anymore.
I don't know what's going on. You're you're pixelating on me this morning.
Okay.
So,
I wonder if it's Wi-Fi.
yep, I think it probably is.
You want me to try to take it off of Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I would.
Let's try that.
We got 10 seconds before we start, too, by the
Oh,
way.
that's great. Let's try it like this, Brett Pritchard.
All right. I think that'll work. It'll clear up here in just a second, but I think your signal will be better. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. We will be with you for a couple of hours here on this Saturday morning as high school football is coming to an end for the regular season. Really, this was week 10. You got one more week of the regular season next week. With the bye week, obviously, have 11 weeks, and then head into the playoffs. And so the playoff picture is becoming a little bit more clear. Some interesting comments from some coaches last night, and really coming from the 7A bracket. Randy, Vestavia and Hoover last night. Vestavia's head football coach talking about the playoffs and issuing a plea to the AHSA to consider changing the structure of the playoff system here in the state to reflect more of what Georgia has adopted. And you know, if you go back and look at his comment and his I guess the clip after the game, you know, he makes some good points, but we'll talk about that as well. Obviously, we were in Chelsea last night, and it was a good football game. Chelsea played really well. Didn't make or made Benjamin Russell earn everything that they had or had to get, and that's what the Wildcats needed. The Wildcats needed you know, they needed that game to be a really, really tough football game because you're heading into the playoffs, and Chelsea really with nothing to play for last night, being eliminated pretty much the previous week. So, again, tough football game. Wildcats kind of found themselves there later in the second half and ended up putting that game away. I know Baby J made another really, really good play, another pick six, but a lot to process and digest here on the show this morning.
Definitely is. I'll start real quick with the comments that you had from the Vestavia coach. I bet there's a lot of teams out there, especially in that region, that feel exactly like him over the years. It is a top heavy classification. How many teams out of that classification's played for state championships, Brett? I mean, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look,
Yep.
but I mean, lately it's been Thompson and Phoenix City. I mean, every once in a while you can kind of spin an Auburn in there who's been there a couple of times, but for the most part, it's been Thompson and Phoenix City. And when you live over there in that region with Thompson and Hoover and Hewitt Trustful and others, you've got 5 of the top 8 teams playing in the same region year in and year out. And I think Vestavia is that way this year, Brett. I believe that. I think Vestavia is a top 5 or 6 team in Class 7A. And with that being said, they've got to go through that juggernaut there on the northern side with Thompson year in and year out to make it to a state championship game. So was that the angle he was going?
Yeah,
Was
well,
the path that they have for the playoffs? Because I haven't watched it yet.
well, the path to the playoffs, but pretty much going back and reseeding because he's saying that there's going to be one or two really good teams in their region that don't get to make the playoffs. And he was talking about last night. He said, look, if we had not won against Hoover and Prattville had won, we'd have been eliminated. And he said, well, I think we're the number 2 team in the state right now. And that is crazy. I mean, Vestavia number 2, and they're still fighting to get in the playoffs. So from a look, that doesn't look very good. That if you're the number 2 team in the state in your classification, and it's week 10, it shouldn't be a situation where you're looking up and going, well, are we going to make the playoffs or not? And we've seen it happen in baseball in the past. I think a Smith Station team was ranked number 1 in the state, and they missed the playoffs one year because of their area. So there are rare times that stuff like that happens. But again, I think when you look at it in 7A, and no offense to the Huntsville region and no offense to the Mobile region, but the state champions have been coming from the Birmingham region and the East Alabama region. And those regions are stacked. And basically what he's saying is, you're taking 4 teams out of each region, and maybe every region doesn't deserve 4 teams. Maybe some regions deserve 5 or 6 because of their schedule and the competition. And, I think he raises a good point. And this is not something new. We've talked about this too. And this has been brought up multiple times. And in a reseeding situation and a power ranking situation where you maybe get a little bit more credit for playing tougher teams and having a tougher schedule, very similar to college football, and looking at what goes into who makes the playoffs and who doesn't there.
Well, it feels like a lot of the same conversations we had around the area before we moved to region play. And I've said that a number of times here on this program, Brett, but when you had 4 teams in the area, sometimes that works out okay just to have 2 teams out of that area make the playoffs. But sometimes all 4 teams are easily good enough. If you put the bottom 2 teams in any different region around the state, a lot of times they may win it. And I use the example of the late 90s with Coach McCracken and Coach Sav going against one another so often in the playoffs. And, Ben Russell in 97, which was Coach Lazenby's first year, played an undefeated Opelika team in week 9. Opelika was 8-0 and only 2 teams out of the region, and you still had Phoenix City in that region to go to the playoffs. And Opelika loses to us by a touchdown. And then the next week they lose by a touchdown to Phoenix City. They finish the season 8-2, and they don't make playoffs. So I remember an uproar around that, especially from a community like Opelika. And so, yeah, I get it. There's not a perfect world, though, out there. I'll put it that way. I mean, when you lose the games, you really don't have the excuse to make. And the problem then is going to be who's determining these seeds.
Yeah.
Like, is there some computer making these rankings? Is the Alabama Sports Writers Association expected? And look, people that you and I are good friends with are part of that. And are they expected to? I mean, do you trust that they're going to make the right decisions on who's right there on the cusp of making the playoffs and who's not? I wouldn't want to be the one to make those decisions.
No, I don't know. There'd have to be a formula that goes in, but the bottom line is on the common sense thing, and your eyeballs tell you that, again, yeah, there's I hear what you're saying on winning the games, but and again, geography shouldn't be the determining factor, especially in 7A, on who makes the playoffs and who doesn't. If you're going to do that, then if you're going to say, well, we're going to go all over the state anyway, well, then break up the regions and say, okay, we're going to half the region in Huntsville and half the region in Birmingham and create another situation. It's going to cause more travel, but it is what it is. I just think just because you are in an area and you happen to have a lot more teams that have been better over the years in one area, that sucks for some of those teams that don't make it because they have to be clustered in the same cluster. as a bunch of really good teams, and they're one of them. I mean, basically what he's saying is don't give us something, but he's right. I think some of the better teams in the state in 7A could be left out, and somebody's going to be on the outside looking in. And we know that happens every year, no matter what classification it is. But I think what he does raise is some valid points of discussion to say, look, maybe we need to look at doing some things a little bit differently. But we know that there's been a lot of meetings the last couple of weeks regarding private schools and how that structure is going to look moving forward with the HSA and what the playoff situation is going to look like. Maybe there. I think there's going to be a lot of changes. We have a reclassification coming up this year. The numbers are already in for every school. So, that'll be coming out at the end of the season and figuring out who's in which classification and what regions you'll be in. So all that, all that changes every 2 years. So with all of that being said, Randy, there's going to be a lot of things over the next year or two that probably are going to be changing with the structure of the way things are done.
Well, and everybody that's out there watching and listening, you're looking at two humans that understand this more than anyone based off of the high school time and the high schools that we cover.
Right.
With Ben Russell, I mean, my entire life, when you sit there and you're in the bottom five of a classification or the top five, I mean, so you're either the bottom five of what was 6A, mine in your entire life, missing out on being a 5A team by 50 some odd students, sometimes 100 students.
Right.
Or you're at the top five of the classification. Yes, sports like football that we've always been successful in, that may not be as big a deal. But you take all the other sports, Brett, the difference between a 6 and 5A program and every other sport's drastic. It's like watching the best 6A team play 7A. I remember talking to you on a Saturday morning, probably a decade ago now, as well as Bo Nix is playing, but watching Bo Nix play Hoover on a Saturday and knowing that Pinson Valley was going to be the 6A state champion that year. You knew it going into the season, and they got beat by 40-something against Hoover. And I go, Brett, there's the discrepancy between 6A and 7A.
Right.
And people can think, from time to time that you can have a 6A team like Clay Chalk will play against Thompson and win. And it can happen. But for the most part, the fifth ranked 6A program and the fifth ranked 7A program is going to be a drastic difference most years. And so the reason these discussions happen is because of that. And the private school part of this conversation is a very difficult conversation to have, Brett, because then you have to take into account all of these other sports. So I was giving Wes Coleman, he and I are interested in soccer because our kids are interested in it. I mean, Wes's younger son's a very good soccer player. So we were talking about some of the top soccer programs in the state. And I was giving an example of Lee Scott. Lee Scott just now getting into soccer because they're new to the HSA. What do they do year one with their girls? They win state championship. What does that mean in the years to come? They're going to keep bouncing up. Where does that get you? Well, it gets you where Montgomery Academy is. Montgomery Academy's girls team play in 7A. They're a 3A team.
Yep.
Their 7A boys just knocked off Oak Mountain, who hadn't lost in 2.5 years in soccer in the state championship game. That's 3A program. So you can say that, well, it's not fair that a 3A program's having to deal with competitive balance. Hell, it didn't bother them. It didn't bother Montgomery Academy. And you go watch them play, and can you imagine them playing against 3A programs? Can you imagine our good
when he having competition? Probably.
Can you imagine our good friend Rick Cleveland at UMS Wright with some of those unbelievable tennis programs that he built over there and what they did playing in 3A classification or somewhere like that? I mean, it's just not. I hate to say it, it's just not a fair competition. And so you do have to put things like this into play to try to even it out, Brett. And I don't have a perfect answer for it, but I know you've got to do it.
Yeah. And, with competitive balance and the multiplier, I think the private schools, and then now with the Choose Act in place, not being able to use money to go to a private school or having to sit out a year if you do. I mean, there's just a lot that continues to pile up, and I think that's what's garnered, the discussions. And so we don't know of anything that's come out of any of that. We haven't been privy to any of that information. So, as soon as we get something, we'll release it, but the HSA will release it as well. But, here's what I appreciate is everybody coming to the table trying to figure it out. It's not
Agreed.
like you got somebody down there going, well, this is how it is. And this is how it's going to be. If you don't like it, well, tough. They're trying to be open-minded about everything, and they're trying to see everybody's point of view and trying to figure out, what the best way to come up with a solution for all of it. But things are changing. We'll continue to talk about that. We've got some comments coming in. We'll hit here, but we are up against a break here on the show. When we come back, we'll start talking about some of these scores from around the state, some playoff scenarios, a lot of things coming up here on the Saturday Sports Countdown.
Am I still foggy?
Yeah, you are.
Just let me get out and come back in.
All right, just come back to the same link, okay?
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Shaker, probably, if things stay the way they are now, probably so. That's way better.
Still not good.
No, it is now.
It's better now?
Clean as a bell.
Okay. Talk me into it. Because you're not dropping at all. When I was dealing with the Wi-Fi, you were a little bit fuzzy on your end. I know it's not a problem, but that's just me pulling in your signal.
Yeah. But you're clear now, finally.
Hey, I'd love to have a conversation. It doesn't have to happen right now, but I'd love to have a conversation on the Choose Act with us. I mean, here's, and I don't want to say it maybe on air right now until I think through my thoughts, because this is a really heated discussion out there. But I will say this because I don't know him. But the more that I listen and hear Will Ainsworth and his opinions on it, it makes me think, but man, it really is easy for you to sit over there and think that you got all the damn answers. I'll say that. This is not as easy as just trying to make this a political game. It's not a political game, man. This is an ugly back end game that's going on in high school sports.
Yeah,
I like it or dislike it, but
that guy jumping in. All right, I'll reserve what I'm going to say.
Well, I don't know the guy, and
I don't either. I
know a lot of people respect him. A lot of people think he's going to be the governor one day. I hear you. I really don't care. I mean, I'm too old to sit around and worry about whether Will Ainsworth thinks anything of me or you or any of us. Doesn't matter to me. He may be the governor one day. Still doesn't matter. I know the back ends of this decision that's going on.
I know the next governor really well, so I'm not really worried about it.
Well, I agree with you on that. But I mean, this is a difficult discussion. It's not an easy answer, and it's one that people need to go into a room knowing. The problem is when you go into a room the way that he's attacking this thing, thinking you're the only one that knows the answer.
Right.
No, there's a lot of people that need to be in this room that know a hell of a lot more about high school sports than you do. You're getting the side of the story that works into your favor. And by the way, look, 20 years ago, if you would have polled me and said, are you for something that looks like it would benefit charter schools and others, I would say, what would I have said 20 years ago, Brett?
Yeah.
Not sure. No, but hell no. I would have said, I don't want to hurt our public schools.
Right.
I'm majorly for public schools. I grew up in a public school, and whatever hurts them is not good. Now, today, we've got too many public schools that are terrible. Like, if you can spin that, the moment that you keep getting numbers where you got graduating seniors leaving and they can't read, write, or do math efficiently, zero in an entire school system, Brett, that's where you can't win those arguments anymore. So, look, I'm on that side, too. Sorry, go down that rabbit hole.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Again, a lot to talk about this morning. Look, I think you bring up some good points on that. I had a discussion with someone this week a couple of times that's on the private school side, and they see both sides. And Bottom line is it all boils down to recruiting. If you are this Choose Act giving a voucher to somebody to go somewhere else to go to school, basically what people are trying to do is prevent legal recruiting. When you got money now that you can afford to come, hey, we'll take your voucher and you can come play for us. If you want to bring your money over here, you can come over here now. And that's not just private school, that's public as well. People moving around. And with recruiting already being a problem, already being an issue, now they're trying the HSA, which is undermanned because you cannot control all this with the staff they have, is trying to not allow what's going on in college football to let the toothpaste completely out of the tube. Just now, it's again. I know but I was talking to a private school guy, and they see where they're coming from, and
Oh, sure.
And so there's not a correct answer from it. So, like Leslie said, honest conversations, that is the only answer. The truth is easy to find. I agree. I totally agree. You got
let me jump in, because you bring up something that takes me down the lane that I want to go, and that is I don't know the answer. You don't know the answer, and I'm almost 99.9% convinced that anybody that's a politician doesn't know the answer.
Well, here's the question, and this is exactly what was told to me by this person, that's a private school guy. The threat from Will Ainsworth is if you don't get your crap together, it's kind of what we were hearing talking to HSA. We're going to come in and we're going to change the structure and we're going to try to take over. So, and one of the things I was told by private school people too is like, well, that's not going to make things better. I mean, you're going to take things away from an organization that's run high school athletics and put it in the hands of the legislature? And you think they're going to be able to come up with a committee that's going to be able to run things better?
Those are the people. Those are the exact people you don't want in charge. I'm just telling you, someone that has not ran an organization. It's like taking advice. I was telling my kids on my football team this week. I said, "There's a lot of life lessons being learned when you're young, but I want to tell y'all something. 95% of the people that you're taking advice from have never put a helmet on or a pad." And I want you to listen. And 95% of the people that give me advice on how to run my business have never run one themselves. And I can assure you that most of those people that are really being political, like Ainsworth, and really drawing a line in the sand, those are the last humans on God's green earth you want running the High School Athletic Association. Hell, they've never done it.
Let's just be honest. I was going to say this just a minute ago. If you think any of this would be being discussed if this was about academics?
No.
If it were about taking a voucher and going to another school for academics, people there would be no discussion. But when you involve athletics and you know that nefarious things are going to go on when you're providing taxpayer money vouchers to kids to move around wherever they want to go. Now it's become political.
And let me make sure that I get this in there one more time.
Yep.
I'm 1,000% for kids getting an opportunity to go to a good school.
This has nothing to do with that. Because if it was just academics, everybody go take your voucher and go wherever you feel like.
Please do.
This is not about that. They want to make it that way on the surface, but this is really about athletics. This is really a staunch athletic issue where you've got basically legalized recruiting. It's not about, hey, you go use your voucher, go over here, and we understand that this is about schools, and let's just be honest, calling guys and going, hey, you got a voucher now. You can bring your voucher. We'll take your voucher and you come here and play at our school and whatever, however you want to work it out. That is the crux of the matter. If anybody says anything different, that it's fabricated. I'll just put it that way. That's where the line in the sand is being drawn.
And that's the line that I understand. I get that. I don't know the proper way of administering that. And
that's why they all got to get in a room and figure it out.
And but the reason that I'm so much, let's get in the room and let's get this right, is for the kids that are in a failing school system that for generations can't get it right. and they've got all kinds of excuses on why they can't get it right. But at the end of the day, that parent doesn't care. That parent that's living in an area that can't get it right wants their kids educated the same as you and I do. And
Right.
they deserve, if they're paying taxes, to
And that's what it
allow
was.
that.
That's what it was designed to do, and
I'm
nobody's
look,
complaining about that.
I'm a staunch conservative. Let me throw that out there. I am all for, but I am pro kids, and I'm pro kids getting the best opportunity to get themselves in a better situation than they're in now. That's the reason I support it. But when you throw the athletic thing in, I don't have a good answer. The only thing I can tell you is how the gray area of this game is played now. And you can like it or dislike it. And some of the problems I've had with some of the news reporters out there is they like to pick and choose which programs they're for and those that they're against. And I'm not going to bring up particular schools, but I'm going to bring up a couple of years ago in South Alabama. It's real funny that one school got ostracized and all the rest of them down there doing the exact same thing. I have no problem calling out the one that's not abiding by the rules, but let's be honest and not be a hypocrite. And let's point to the other 7 that are winning championships down there that are doing the exact same thing. As long as we're not being hypocritical, I can have the conversation. But the moment that everyone thinks that, oh no, we're doing it right, and they're not, look, I've been around this long enough to tell you most of the time that's not true.
In the main issue with this, the having to sit out a year if you use it, you can't go transfer immediately. In that, the main issue that Will Ainsworth is having with this is that the HSA saying if you use that voucher, you got to wait a year to go to that school or to compete at that school.
That is exactly right, and
Okay,
that's the part of it that I'm
that's the part that
50-50 on.
the part the HSA is having a concern about
And
is
they
that
should.
it's moving immediately using the voucher program. So look, all right, we're up against a break. We can talk about this some more.
Yeah, we'll hit on this after the season.
Yeah,
but right now we'll hit some scores.
but nobody knows anything right now. So
That's right.
This is just friendly banter back and forth. And here's what I can say is I think that, what's going on with HSA in the meetings this past week, I don't know how any of them went, but the fact that you're trying to bring the players in and discuss how you can do things better is a great first step. And I don't know what will come out of it. But, yeah, there's some things that need to be changed. Just because you've done it the way you've done it forever doesn't mean it's the best way anymore. So there's a lot of things to look at. And, if you were to separate private and public, how does that affect classifications? How does that affect regions? You got to think about all that too, the geography and the travel. And look, we went not too long ago, we were talking about the expense on these schools having to travel all over the place. We were in a region one year where we had to go down to Rehoboth, man. And it's like, how did we get stuck in this region? How is it? Because you're trying to take the teams that you have in each classification and divide them up equally in regions. And it just happened to be that was a 7-team region that everybody was spread out all over the place. So, and 7A feels that way every year. Like 7A, they do a rotation in playoffs. The Mobile region and the Huntsville region are matched up the first round this year. So 2 teams are from Huntsville and 2 teams from Mobile going to pass each other, going to opposite ends of this state to play a first-round playoff game in a couple of weeks, man. I don't have a right answer, but, I mean, they're trying to make it fair by going, okay, we're not going to match up Birmingham and Huntsville every year and East Alabama and Mobile every year in the first round and eliminate somebody that's probably a good football team. You know what I mean? So they're trying to figure it out. There's no correct answer. So, all right, we'll go to a break. When we come back, a lot more to come here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. Yeah, I mean, you got to look at the number of teams that are in 7A versus the number of teams that are in 6A through 1A. And so the answer is not moving teams up into 7A, adding more teams, because the discrepancy of the enrollment still that's the part that you're playing. You got geography that's a problem.
Well, you can't look. We got out of the sole 6A classification because of schools like ours, Brett.
Right.
we were talking last night with our superintendent, and I think he understands this as well, if not better than anybody out there.
Right.
I appreciate his opinion as much as anyone out there. And the point that he was making in 7A, you can't have a 2,300 enrollment school playing a 700. Well, hell, that's what you and I grew up in. I mean, that was 6A. 6A was anywhere from 700.
That's why they fixed it and made it 7A.
You can't go back to that. I mean, it really, that is not.
No.
We just had a talk about how tough it is for a 1,200 student or 1,150 student school to compete consistently in 7A. It doesn't mean you can't have an outlier year or two when you've got a great quarterback and some other pieces in place, but it's not just football, everyone. These are other sports, and I think the other sports are the discrepancy there maybe even more than now.
All right, some comments coming in. Wesley said, I hear y'all say that weekly about enrollment. That kind of cancels out when you bring in multiple kids from other schools, like me and retired high school coach. When you can bring in talent, it cancels it out.
Yeah, he's right.
No, for sure. Kyle said, I still hate they put Glenwood and Lee Scott in Daville's region, but it is what it is. Well, it's geography. And, the AISA is down to a very small amount of schools because everybody's wanting to come over to the HSA and be part of the competition. They want better competition. It's not a cut on AISA, but when enough schools leave, Glenwood and Lee Scott are saying we need to play better competition.
Well,
I had those two coaches tell us at media days that out of their own mouth. Okay, that came from them saying, "Look, we got to challenge our kid. We got to give our kids the best opportunity."
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna toot our horn, and it's not me, but I'm gonna say this real quick. Part of the reason also is the exposure you get with the AHSA is second to none.
Oh, there's zero.
Always has been ran exceptionally well. I mean, back when the goal is to make the Super Six. The goal is to make the championship round, to make it to the finals in Birmingham. You know how hard it is to put on events like that? The AHSA does an unbelievable job.
Look, there's some things to clean up, but it ain't broke. All right, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Talked to Kevin Keel this week, man. They're doing great, and he's a big Chambers Academy guy, man. They just keep rolling, and so they've got some decisions they need to make too, moving in, and so they're part of discussions. And AISA was brought to the table, so we don't know what's going to happen. Like everybody is discussing what they feel like. And they'll probably both sides come up with things that they would like to have. And then you come to a compromise in the middle and everybody walks away going, okay, we I didn't get everything I wanted, but I got this, and then you figure out a way to compete and, coexist. I remember when, you were going to a 7 classification system, you had pros and cons. You had people going, well, I don't know, why are we doing this, and, this doesn't make sense for this, and this. And you come to the table and you go, okay, well, I get it. There won't be as many schools in that classification, but we needed to separate these super schools, super enrollment schools away from, the discrepancy in the top classification was just way too big. So, and I know as you work your way down, there's still discrepancies. And, when you get in the lower classification, sometimes you see it even more. Because, if you're competing at the top and you got 150 students in 1A, and then you get down to the bottom of 1A and you got 40 or 30, I mean, that's a big discrepancy too. And you're not, but there's no utopian answer for all this. So it's just the way it is. Glenn said, I have a niece at a school that wants to be a nurse, but the school has no program or college classes at all. So there, in fact, is why that you have this. It's turned into an athletics thing because that's what everybody does. They use tools to get an advantage to go do things, and that's where they saw it. Like people are always trying to find loopholes and ways to take something and make it into something else. But what Glenn just said is the reason the legislature voted for that. It was not about athletics. It was about academics. It was about being in a failing school system and going to a school system that has the things that you want or need for your career. But now we've spun this thing into being an athletic deal because you've involved vouchers and money, and now you can move people around to come play. Like that is exactly what it's become.
Amen, Glenn. Look, I was in a meeting with the state workforce development leader this week, and I'll throw this out there. The number one job opening right now in the state of Alabama, the biggest problem they have is healthcare, and it's nursing.
It's going to continue to be a problem.
And two of our major cities, I'll give you this, Glenn. They said in two of our biggest hospitals in the state, one had 80 openings, the other had 150 openings. They had 0 resumes in hand for those nursing positions they need. 80 in one, 150 in the other.
You know what? That should scare the hell out of everybody watching this and listening, because all this stuff we're talking about doesn't matter if you don't have good health care in your country. That's all of our livelihoods. It doesn't matter what neighborhood you live in, doesn't matter what city you live in, doesn't matter what school you go to. If you got bad health care, it doesn't matter. I mean, that and so you got that big a shortage going on, and I don't see that getting better either. So, all right, we're not going to go back down this path. We've talked enough politics for 40 minutes here on the show, so we're going to get to high school football. It's why we're here this morning, and we'll dive into our game first, as we don't normally 40 minutes in start discussing our game, but we had a good game last night at Chelsea, and Wildcats end up winning 42-21, a very game and gritty Chelsea team. Wildcats finish off the region undefeated as region champs. They have one game left against Percy Julian on Thursday night. So this coming up Thursday will be the final home game or final game of the regular season for Benjamin Russell. And then we'll head into the playoffs. And, of course, we're going to go through all the scores here in just a minute. But just your thoughts, obviously some superlatives last night that we want to highlight, namely Baby J with another pick six, Kingston Preyer with another great night throwing the football, BJ Bedgood going up a notch, if that's even possible, in the way he's playing. I mean, this team just continues to improve every week.
Well, first I'll start with Chelsea. I just want to say what a beautiful facility they have there now. And you and I have got a lot of friends over there. I've got family over there, but I'll start with our good friend Michael Stallings, who's the athletic director. Brett, what a job, man. I mean, to go there 10 years ago and then to go back there now, it's eye-opening how nice that facility is. And it takes a lot of work and effort by the community. And I was very, very impressed. And they had a good football team last night. Over to our team, first half, you could play much better in Kingston Preyer. I'd like to see it. I know that
8 of 13 in the first half.
8 of 13 for 209 and 2 touchdowns. The only reason it wasn't a third touchdown is because BJ put a knee down maybe at the 1 yard line, catching a ball as he had to go low. It was really, really close. And, it was good for Jai, who was our player of the game last night, because he got to walk it into the end zone from about a half yard out. But that wasn't the only one that he had last night. Jai Norris, our offensive player of the game, had 131 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. He had a 75-yarder to close things out in the fourth quarter when Chelsea had fought their way back to a one-score game, 28-21. And we get the football back, and Jai seals it with that long run. Great kid, Brett. I'm telling you, when I go up and take a photo of him to give him player of the game, just smiling and a wonderful demeanor, and so many of our kids are that way. But Jai was our offensive player of the game, and then on the defensive side, it could be every week. We try to mix it up.
This guy's unbelievable.
But you couldn't mix it up last night. I mean, if you didn't give it to Charles Chappelle, you weren't trying to actually name a player of the game. He was the best player on the football field, in my opinion, last night.
I think he made every tackle on the field. It was in on everything.
So physical, but also his ability to close down space. Brett's been calling ball games on me for 22 years now. The thing that impresses me the most about linebacker play is not only downhill play. You know, I've seen a lot of great downhill linebackers, especially in high school game, but they're not really good in pass coverage, and they're not really good playing sideline to sideline because they don't have the speed and the athleticism to make plays when it gets on the perimeter. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what other people are watching. From my opinion, Charles Chappelle deserves a big time college scholarship. If he's not good enough to play at Troy or somewhere like that, hell, I'm watching the wrong game. And maybe he has those type of offers out there, but for my money, he's one of the best linebackers in the state of Alabama. I love the way he carries himself. He's a tremendous leader. He's not a rah-rah guy. He's more of just watch me play and get behind me, and I'm gonna carry you to the promised land. And you and I called his championship game last year at Catholic. He had 14 tackles and 1 INT in that one, and he just gets better. Every time I watch him, I think, can he get better? And he does.
All right, let's go to break for TV. I'm a little over here, so we'll come back. We'll continue to talk about this and a lot more here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. Yeah, he is one of the best I've seen, man, at that position. Like, he really is. He just that one play in the second half where he read the play and he found the lane to get through and the angle to cut the running back off in the backfield for a 4-yard loss. That, to me, when you look at film on great middle linebackers, they make those kind of plays a lot.
They do, yes.
And yeah, and that's
Look, Leslie, you're right. He is not wanting to just tap you and get you down.
Oh, he's gonna punish you, man.
Yeah, he is coming downhill at you.
And that hey, look, that sends a message to a guy hitting the hole hard.
Oh yeah,
you get popped 1 or 2 times like that, and all of a sudden that guy back there is going, "Oh, I ain't doing that again." So,
but you know who my favorite linebacker is all time because I talk about him all the time, and it's not just the downhill play, but Ray Lewis was so good in pass coverage. I mean, how many times in a game, Brett, would he be in the middle of the field getting his hands on balls where they're trying to throw dig routes, slant routes? You try to come to the middle of the field with him, he's finding a way to the football, and that's where Charles is really good.
And Tyrone Martin did the same exact thing. Tyrone Martin was the imps of Charles.
Yeah.
Those 2 guys played that position. They look similar. Tyrone was great in pass coverage too. Had several interceptions. If you'll remember, as a middle linebacker, that's just not a mistake. That's not just happenstance. That's knowing where to be and knowing coverages. But that's also knowing how to play downhill, like you said, and know how to be a thumper. And there's nobody that hit harder at that position than Tyrone Martin. And then now you got Charles that does the same thing. I know we've had several over the last several years too that have been really solid players, really solid linebackers. But
the separation is you can be a solid linebacker at a couple of things, but when you can do all of them,
yeah.
And you watch what we do with him, it's Derek Brooks Tampa 2, man. I mean, we get into a 3rd down and 12, he's going back to middle safety. I mean, and he is he's the one that's back there, playing in defensive coverage in the secondary. And, when you got a linebacker that's got that skill set, that's a separator. Yeah. Most good linebackers that I grew up with and that you were around when we were coming through, Brett, I wouldn't say they had ball skills. I would say that they could fill a gap. They were physical enough, but when it came to truly getting out in pass coverage, oh man, some weren't good at all at that.
No, right.
So to be able to do all of it's a difference.
All right, we got a lot of comments. We're going to get to them. Got 20 seconds. We'll come back and hit some of these. Then get to some scores. Who would be our play in the first round? More than likely Central Tuscaloosa. Best teams in the classification are Clay Chalkville, Parker, Muscle Shoals, who came back from 28 points down last night to beat Hartselle, which was crazy. Wow. Was getting a text message from our good friend Barry Dunn last night. Didn't get a chance to talk to him, but he's like, That was crazy to watch that.
Tucker was sending me some updates on Stanhope and Wetumpka. How did that one finish, Brett? I haven't
I
looked
got
at
it
the
right here.
scores. Good.
We got it. Yeah.
That's a good football game.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. A couple segments left here in the first hour before we dive into hour number 2. We'll get to some comments over here, just continuing on, just giving some of the best teams in 6A and, of course, in the South. Benjamin Russell, Pike Road, Saraland, obviously, are 3 that definitely stick out. So there's 7 or 8 teams right there that are really, really solid in 6A. We'll talk about some playoff scenarios here in just a little bit. Glenn said, I thought number 9 was going to be a walk penalty flag, but the kid lets the game speak. But here's the deal. He made a play last night where he saw the center move the football for Chelsea, and he started pointing immediately and turned around and got the officials' attention. It's like, hey, he's moving the ball. You know, you can't do that, and he's causing maybe some of our guys to want to get a jump, and he enticed that flag, and obviously the center was still sitting there, and they walked up to him, and it was a false start based on moving the footballs. But like, and I said it in the broadcast, like his football IQ is off the chart, man. Like he's aware, like everything, and getting people aligned correctly, and it is such a invaluable asset to have a middle linebacker who's the quarterback of your defense that's that knowledgeable about everything going on and making sure everybody's in the best position for every particular snap on every play. So I again, you got to have a good quarterback on offense, and Ben Russell does, but you got to have a good quarterback on defense, and they got a great one in Charles Chappelle. Justin asked about Tyrone and Charles being better than El Toro. Look, I think all 3 of them had different qualities, and I think all 3 of them were outstanding. Like El Toro's still the highest rated player now outside of Sedarian. Sedarian, I think, is taking that mantle now, but both were 5 stars. And again, I think El Toro's his career spoke for itself. He won a national title. That ain't happened very often at Auburn. So yeah, and he played on that team. So yeah, I think, and then unfortunately for Tyrone, he was going to be a stud player at Auburn, but got hurt on the opening kickoff of the USC game on the road with a severe stinger, and never was cleared by medical staff after that. He was one of 3 freshmen Auburn took on the road that night or that day to take on USC. And it's unfortunate that we didn't get to see him play out like we thought we could. But, then coming to Charles, like you said, Randy, making a plea for this kid to get a big time. He is absolutely in the category with those 2 for sure. And both of them got big time college offers.
Yeah, I mean, if the question is size, I think he might be as big, if not bigger, than all of them.
I think so.
I think so. I mean, and El Toro was a highlight reel. He was just a straight up highlight reel on the football field, and he had to play in the middle, but it probably wasn't the ideal spot for him. I'll say that. If he was a weak side backer with the athleticism he had, he was.
But you had to put him there because of what he was.
Yeah, I mean, in high school ball, you don't want him running away from you, so you got to still. It's like you talking to Jarquez.
Guys, I was just about to say the same thing.
You don't have a choice. So you put Jarquez Wilkes at defensive end. Hell, they run to the opposite side of the field every snap, and so you got to put him in the middle. And El Toro was that way. I mean, he was a lot of fun to cover, and always, with his athleticism, was going to make 2 or 3 plays a game where everybody in the crowd knew what they were watching.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's get to some scores. We'll start in 7A. Auburn knocked off Dothan 39-26.
Hey, they're getting their offense going, Brett.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, yep. It's taken a little while with the quarterback moving over, and but they're playing much better on the offensive side. So I don't know that they're good enough to get through Phoenix City and those teams, but it is a much better version of this Auburn team than we saw midway through the season.
Yeah, and I know we got to get to another break. Patrick said this was Chelsea's Super Bowl. They haven't played like that all season. And look, rightfully so. They knew there was no playoffs, so they probably said, look, Ben Russell's the region champs. You guys have an opportunity to go out here and spoil something for them. And us end on a high note, and they played great for 4 quarters. So yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you this. I'll give one more a tip of the cap to Chelsea. Chelsea played last night without their number 1 running back, and their number 2 running back went down halfway through the game. So they played as well as they did, really without a number of their key kids. So I was impressed.
Yeah. All right, let's go to break. For TV, we come back. We'll continue with scores. Stay tuned. More of the Saturday Sports Countdown right after this. You know, Baker won that region with that win last night over Fair Oak. So, you look at those scores between Thompson and Prattville and Vestavia and Hoover, man, that region's gotten a lot tighter. There's probably 5 teams that deserve, and then you look over at what Opelika did last night with Carver. So
that's a good win for Opelika. I thought they were reeling bad.
They were reeling bad. They were reeling bad.
That's a.
But that just shows you in that region, in the Birmingham region, you don't ever know from week to week who's going to pop. Dothan's been that team. Enterprise has been that team. That could pop up and just railroad you one night. It's just kind of crazy. You're like, you go into some of these games, you go, well, they're going to get beat by 2 touchdowns, and you look up and they won by 2. And it's like, what? Because everybody's got such great players, and if you turn the ball over a couple times, that's what Carver did. They threw a pick 6 to lose the game there at the end. That's what's going to happen. So, Central Tuscaloosa. Oh, Central Tuscaloosa beat Hueytown. I'll check that regional layout, Patrick, when we come back. We'll get into all that, but it was a potential, just kind of looking forward, that Ben Russell would play Hueytown in the 3rd round on the road if things were to line up. Like the hypothetical, just for everybody watching, would be Central Tuscaloosa and Theodore in rounds 1 and 2. If things played out, Hueytown in round 3 on the road, and then round 4 at home against Saraland. So you get 3 rounds at home, 1 round on the road, and then if you win them all in that, you're in Birmingham. So that's talking to multiple people and getting confirmation on that. So that's not me just coming up with something. So now, again, with things like that, when you have things switch, now things can change, obviously. And if you have an upset, things can change. So that's if everything were to hold serve. All right, we got 10 seconds. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Coming up on hour number 2, last segment here. Two-man said, did Carver Montgomery team give up like their coach did in scheduled Saraland matchup? That was a bizarre deal all the way around this past week with the announcement of that and the comments that came out on that. But I can verify that from Jeff Kelly and Saraland, they did not mutually agree to cancel that game. If Jeff Kelly was on this show right now, he would say that. Like, there was no mutual agreement. Now, I think they said, okay, if that's what you're going to do it. But they wanted to play the football game. So, if you got something scheduled now, all of a sudden, you don't have that game at the end of the season. I know it's not in region, but you still playing a football game. There's a reason you put that on the schedule. And now you don't have that ball game coming up next week.
Well, there's contracts involved and there's reputations involved when it comes down to that. So I'll kind of leave it at that. It was an odd situation, but Carver's reeling at this point in time, and I didn't see it coming. I think they've got a really solid football team, and I think they've got a good coaching staff. But here at the end of the season, Auburn really took it to them last week, and then a win by Opelika last night. Man, it's a tough region, isn't it, Brett? If you take a minor step back, let's just say you get a key player or 2 injured in that region, it changes the entire dynamic. And I'm not saying that's happened to them, but if I put myself in their shoes, it's a massive difference when you watch a region that's as talented as that one is.
Oh yeah. Well, the same can be said for Birmingham too. And
Oh yeah.
that's what we see. All right, let's get to some of these scores. Daphne over Robertsdale, 60-13. Enterprise shutout Smith Station, 37-0. Hewitt Trustful over Tuscaloosa County, 49-7. James Clemens over Albertville, 45-0. Opelika over Carver Montgomery, 24-14. It was Thompson over Prattville, 29-15. And Vestavia Hills over Hoover, 39-30. On Thursday night, it was Phoenix City over Jag, 62-6. Let's move down to 6A. And with 6A on Thursday night, there were several games. It was Clay Chalkville over Pinson Valley, 52-14. Oxford over Huffman, 55-6. And Parker over Woodlawn. And that was our game of the week. And Faith and I were up there this past week and talking to them and had a great sit-down conversation. They love going up and taking time to be with them, and very, very class program up there at Parker, and do it the right way. And then again, going into that game, kind of knew that was going to be one that was probably going to get away. They could have scored 100, man. I've never seen. I watched the first half of that game, and it was more about Woodlawn more than it was Parker. I don't want to call people out, but it looked like Woodlawn just was going through the motions, man. It was kind of like, we know we're out, man, Duke, and they'd run the clock and get us off this field. But anyway, Parker's got a good football team, and they're the defending 6A champs, so they'll have something to say about that north side. So let's dive on down. Ben Russell again over Chelsea, 42-21. It was Blunt over St. Paul's, 34-28 last night. So that one's a little surprising to me when you look at it. Central Tuscaloosa did not only beat Hueytown, they blew them out 37-21 when you look at it from that standpoint. So maybe that changes some things. I don't know if things were already aligned the way they were going in, but regardless, that's going to be whoever ends up being the opponent for Benjamin Russell in round one. If things were to change based off that score, it's going to be a tough opponent. It's not going to be a cakewalk first round game. I mean, you're going to have to come out and play good football right out of the gate, because everybody in that region, all four teams are talented, and they've got playmakers. And I know Central Tuscaloosa, I was told by Parker's coach, I don't watch Central Tuscaloosa. You don't either, Randy. But he told me, he said, man, they got some really good receivers. He's like, I know y'all got some great ones. But he said they got a couple too, and, they make some plays, and they're pretty dynamic. So, look, it's going to be a challenge, man.
Well, I trust the coaches you talk to, especially if they're Parker in some of these programs like Saraland, and if they say they're good, they're not just saying it
they're not, right.
So you're tuning in. I mean, they've got some dudes, and you put up 37 against a Hueytown team that always plays physical football, Brett. That's what they're known for. Running it down your throat and really good, strong physical play on the defensive side. So that will be a tough opponent if that's the one we've got.
And we've faced them a couple of times in the last 3 years. So they've won.
Beat them one time and lost to them one time.
Yeah, we split. So, I mean, it's a good matchup. Helena 39, Calera 21. Helena they're a good football team. Don't look at their record. That is a good football team that is going to be the 3 seed in this region, and it's going to be a bad problem for a number 2 seed somewhere. Wherever they're traveling, that's going to be a tough game for whoever it is that draws them. So that's what you get in that 2-3 matchup. Even in the 1-4 now, it's tough. Homewood over Minor, 31-14. McGill-Tulane knocks off Spanish Fort, 45-32. This is the most losses for Spanish Fort in the season I think I can remember in a long time.
Missed the playoffs? Is that?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, no, just not the product that we've seen in the past.
All right, Jasper 61, Columbia 22. I'll bring that one up for one reason. If Columbia loses next Friday night, that will be 100 in a row. 100 straight losses for Columbia High School. And, man, I tell you, they're trying to change some things. It is just, man, they're in a 6A bracket in that region up there, Randy. It is no rest for the weary, I can tell you that. But it's tough, and I bring that up because this has made national news. And there's a team, I think, in Minnesota that hasn't won a football game since 1999. So they do not have the longest losing streak in the country. There's a team in Minnesota that hasn't won a football game since 1999. So I want you to think about that for a second. So, man, it is mind-blowing sometimes to see some of this stuff. But Columbia's going to get over the hump one day. It's coming. You know, they keep pounding. And, like, I know this is not some consolation, but last year, Jasper would have beat them 80-0. It was 61-22. And I know you're going, well, man, that's still – they almost beat – I think it was East Limestone. I think it was 28-24 was the score this year. So they were right there on the cusp. And so they're getting there. Sammy Coates, the first-year head coach, he took this on. And, you know, I think he's got a mission to turn that program around. You got to start somewhere.
He does. Difficult to just keep showing up and keep trying to get over the hump, but they're getting closer.
Muscle Shoals over Hartselle, 31-17. They scored 28 unanswered points to come back and win that game over Hartselle. That was a rival game and just a really, really good win there for Muscle Shoals, who continues to be strong up there in the north. Russell County over Rehoboth, 49-20. Saraland over Theodore, 38-14. Spain Park over Chilton County, 49-0. And Stanhope wins over Wetumpka, 35-28.
Oh, man, that was a good football game against two teams that are playoff.
Hey, congratulations to Hunter Adams.
Yes.
You know, man, he has turned Stanhope back around.
He sure
has.
I
knew it was tough sledding last year, but you know, Hunter Adams, we know him very well, and we know what kind of coach he was at Ben Russell, and you know his passion is unrivaled, and he stayed the course. And like you said multiple times, there's always great athletes in Millbrook, Alabama. Well, he's taking advantage of that now, and they're coaching them up, and they're winning. They're winning football games. You know, whereas, you know, you go, a team gave you a game. Now they're going and they're beating teams. Now there's a difference. And so they've turned their program around down there at Stanhope.
Yeah, we knew that would be a good matchup with those two teams, really equal. And, you know, good offensive output week in and week out for Stanhope. Kevin Smith, I know, is also over there, and he's called up some great offensive teams over the years at Ben Russell and doing a great job there. And, Brett, they've got one of the top running backs in the state at Stanhope. A lot of major D1 programs after that kid. So hopefully he ends up with a big scholarship offer.
All right, we're going to take a break, top of the hour. When we come back, we'll run down the rest of the scores and then look at some of this playoff stuff. Stay tuned. More of the Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Be looking for Luke, Brett. I got to go whenever he pops in.
Okay. I sent him the mess. I sent him the link.
Send him a message real quick just to see if he's coming.
I will. All right, let's look at this. Well, you got Hueytown and Bessemer City at 5-1. So that was their first region loss last night. Central Tuscaloosa's 4-2. McAdory's 4-2. There's your – so Central Tuscaloosa is going to be the 4 seed. It looks like with a 7-2 record. ain't no easy deal there.
No.
All I can tell you. They're gonna bring a good football team in to Benjamin Russell in 2 weeks. So that's a stacked region. 5-1, 5-1, 4-2, 4-2. That's their 4 teams. Bessemer City, McAdory, Central Tuscaloosa, Hueytown.
Justin, send him a message for me, please.
So
I think he was up at Lake Broadcasting until the crows start chirping this morning.
Let me send him.
Boy, this time of year, there's nobody in our group that is not working themselves. And
man, shit. Dude, I've been up. Dude, I almost pulled a 24-hour one. I mean, I got into bed last night, and I was just a few hours shy of being up for 24 straight. And I drove from Alex City to Auburn to Hope Hull, back to Auburn to Chelsea last night and back home. That was my journey just on a Friday, just, you know, your average Friday, everybody. So
Well, Brett, I'm gonna miss out on talking to you about Auburn and Arkansas, but thank the Lord above you don't have to make that trip.
I'm
That
glad.
is the only good thing I can give for you out there. I know you love it, but
Well,
man, I'm
it was not in the cards, thank goodness. So, yeah, I wish Brett was getting ready for the monsoon in Fayetteville right now. Yeah, Luke said sorry. Just he meant to say got up, but I don't know.
boy, you're about to see him sit on the couch and he's gonna be disheveled. He's gonna be working on that hair this
We
first
might have
half.
to cut this show short. We have to exit. Won't hurt my feelings any. I'll go back to bed myself.
As soon as he pops in, I'm out.
All right.
I got to head to Macon, Georgia for 2 soccer games.
Good God. I'm telling you, man.
I told Wes Coleman last night, the good Lord better have me a beautiful room when I get up there, because if I didn't earn it from anybody else, I earned it through these 2 kids of mine. I did. I don't have to go to the pearly gates and ask, can I come in, if it's the discussion around my 2 kids. They have gotten every waking second of extra time that I had to give.
Here we go. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Two-Man said Luke may have his Halloween hair on. There's a good, he just got out a bit. He literally just said it. So we'll see how that all plays out here in just a minute. All right, continuing on down through some 6A scores. Gulf Shores over Baldwin County, 31-12. Let's see, who else did I not talk about? I think that's all of them there, pretty much of 6A. Let's go to 5A. Beauregard over Valley, 14-7. That was a shock because Valley been playing pretty good. Beauregard knocks them off. Briarwood over Hayden, 49-7. Catholic over Andalusia, 23-17. Elmore County over Sylacauga, 42-14. Moody over Lincoln, 48-6. UMS Wright over Faith Academy, 51-6. Viger over BC Rain, 28-6. Williamson over LaFleur, who just took over the reins at number 1 at 5A, shuts out LaFleur 28-0. So there's you some scores in 5A. In Class 4A, Hanley over Booker T. Washington, 42-12. Cherokee County over Asheville, 42-18. Pleasant Grove over Bibb County, 49-46. St. James over Munford, 24-12. St. Michael over Orange Beach, 49-7. Tallahassee shuts out Talladega, 35-0. Don't know if there's any more of really a note to talk about there in 4A. Down in Class 3A, it was Bayside Academy knocking off T.R. Miller, 23-14. Dayville gets a win. That's going to get them in the playoffs. 33-10 over Childersburg, Randy. So another one of our local teams going to find their way into the playoffs there.
It's a tough region they're matched up in. So you look down and their record may not look as good as you expect, but how many games they lose in overtime to start the season, Brett? 2 or 3 of them.
They lost 2, and then they lost a couple more one score games like within 3.
So that is a 1-4 matchup in the first round. It's going to be difficult for somebody.
Yeah, they're again like a Helena. Don't look at their record. It's a little bit better football team. Mars Hill shut out Clements 52-0. Lee Scott over BB Comer 36-8. Gordo over Carbon Hill 61-25. Trinity over Houston Academy 17-14. There's some scores there in Class 2A. Lafayette over Horseshoe Bend 38-0. Thought that one may have a chance to be a win for Horseshoe Bend. You know, when you looked at Lafayette and looked at this game coming up with Woodland, but to get shut out, Randy, I just was a little bit taken back.
Well, you know, 2A is going to be a real good classification to watch once we get to the playoffs. I don't point to one team like Reeltown last year where I thought they were going to have to play really poorly not to win the state championship. Doesn't feel that way this year, does it, Brett? I mean, there's some good teams. There's 5 or 6 teams in 2A, I think, that can win. And I see Luke, you look good. You don't look like you got your hair kind of in the
Welcome
right
in.
spot.
Well, I just had to wet it pretty good because when you drive in to Birmingham from Alex City after doing the scoreboard show, and you don't get to sleep immediately. You've just been driving for an hour and something. So then you turn around and your dog has to go out, and your 9-year-old daughter gets in the bed and kicks you in the groin. After all that, you get about 45 minutes worth of sleep till right now. And then I woke up and I looked at the clock. I said it's 7:58. I said, my God. So here we go.
Well, Luke,
Right.
I know you feel my pain, but I got to get on the road to head to
Oh, yeah.
Macon, Georgia. I got to
I'm
Macon,
doing it
Georgia.
just a little bit.
Yeah, we're chasing it, Brett. I'm telling you. So I'll be tuning into y'all.
See you, buddy.
Yeah, and I told them, Luke, before you got on, I was a few hours shy of a straight 24-hour one for me yesterday. I got up at 3:00 yesterday to go to Hope Hull, Alabama, to the fishing tournament between Auburn and Alabama, and then drove back to Auburn, back to Alex City to Chelsea last night to call a game, and then back home. And I was just a couple hours shy of being up.
Who won the fishing tournament?
Auburn did by 9 pounds. So, but it was
is that a lot?
Hey, here's the cool thing. I think if Faith and I, if our weight would have counted, we'd have won it.
Oh, wow.
Because we had like 18 pounds, and I think she caught the biggest fish of the day. She had one over 6, so she went down there and kind of showed everybody how to do it. So, but I'm gonna take credit for it, Luke, because I had to put her in the right spot to do it, man. She's like,
Two men said Luke may have his Halloween hair on. No, that's naturally that dark. Honest to God,
that I don't think he's talking about the darkness of it. I think he's talking about the.
Well, hey, look, I did wet it. I mean, I did the best I could do, bro.
Where it's all just kind of everywhere.
I know. Listen, I sleep the way I live, very restlessly. It's me versus the bed all night. It's been probably 4 or 5 decades, literally, since I slept in a bed and that corner fitted sheet didn't come out. I rip that puppy to shreds every night. I don't even know how it survives.
How does that thing? I mean, it never stays down. So it's the most frustrating thing in the world. So, all right, let's go ahead and go to break here. We come back. We pretty much ran down through the scores, Luke, and we come back. We'll dive into college football. A lot to talk about here in the last 40 minutes or so of the show. So stay tuned. More of the Saturday Sports Countdown right after this. So that region in Birmingham's gotten crazy, hadn't it, with the parity up there? I mean, some good teams.
You're talking about the Thompson one?
Yeah, Thompson and all. Yeah.
So it ends up Central is the one taking on Hoover. That's crazy. Yes. That's got to be one of the best all-time first-round matchups ever.
That's crazy. I was told that the other day. I can't remember where we were, but they were like, yeah, it looks like maybe Hoover going to be taking on Phoenix City. I was like, man, that is wild. And they just beat Thompson. Of course, they just lost to Vestavia last night. And Vestavia's coach was talking about after the game, there's going to be a couple really good teams in that region that get left out of the playoffs. And he said he was just making a comment about need to start looking at maybe doing the reseeding thing because every region's not equal. And just because you say every region gets 4 teams in, maybe not the best way to look at it. But I mean, he makes some good points there. But
it is. I understand why they have done it in the past because it's impossible to. It's not like college football where you can see teams and you can say, okay, I know that team is good. I mean, I've watched them several times. You can't do that with high school, but now maybe with NFHS. I mean, I would like to see it that way because it is. I mean, it's not good for us to get a first-round matchup with Thompson and our Central and Hoover. That's not good for anybody. I mean, you can say, "Well, what a great first-round game," and it's true, but that's a semifinal game. It's what it should be.
No, I agree with you. And you remember last year, Opelika played Hoover. I think it went to overtime, either in round 2. I think maybe in round 2, and the thing about 7A playoffs, there's only 3 rounds.
Yeah.
You only get 3 rounds. So technically it's like a second round matchup in the first round because there's only 3 rounds. So, but a very good football team, and I know it's the breaks, but a good football team going to have a season end after one round of the playoffs, and that's just the way it is. All right, so we got a few here before we come back from break. I know you're not a Major League Baseball fan, but I'm glad to see the Blue Jays stick it to the dang Dodgers last night.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked. I wasn't really paying attention to it, and I looked up and I was like 11-4, and I just sort of, it was a cursory look, so I just assumed the Dodgers were on top, and then I looked back and saw, I was like, what in the heck? Was that the final?
Yeah. Blue Jays have the best hitting team in the league by far. Even with the Dodgers, they have the best roster, but the Blue Jays bats right now, man, it's crazy. You got 15 seconds. I hope they put them out. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. About 40 minutes left on the show today. Real quick comment there from Tony. Zach Goodson had 2 interceptions in the second half last night for Stanhope. First was a pick 6. The second set up game-winning TD. But D. Barnes, man, is playing outstanding. He is one of the best running backs in the state. And a big win for Stanhope last night. So I think D had a massive game last week, had like PlayStation numbers. But again, no Hunter Adams real well down there at Stanhope. Done a tremendous job of getting that program turned around and getting things back on track for Stanhope. They always have good talent, and he's finally got Stanhope playing good football again. Luke, before we get into college, anything that you want to comment on about high school? I know you were on the scoreboard show last night. Anything? I know we just kind of talked about that Birmingham region a little bit, maybe a little bit about the East Alabama region as well in 7A, but anything else stand out?
I mean, I guess the one thing was just seeing that Wadley and Maplesville is still on that collision course. And that's I mean, you don't normally say the 1A game is the game you got to watch when you go to the state championships, but this may be, assuming everything just stays the course. Maplesville is really good. I called them early, and of course Wadley. They have 1 or 2 fabulous players, and that's this will be a rematch of the last year's state championship, and Wadley sort of ran all over them with Jaquez Wilkes, and but I think this year it's Wadley's out. Maplesville's out for blood, and Wadley, of course, still want to defend that championship. That's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I think that's going to be a phenomenal football game. Of course, they got to get there, but like you said, I think it's inevitable unless something just crazy happens. It's a collision course. I'd like to get your take real quick before we dive into college about Carver and Saraland. That garnered a lot of news this past week, and Carver canceling that football game or getting out of that game, and then something coming out, mutual agreement there, and I think there was some pushback there from Saraland saying we didn't want out of the game, they wanted out, and so forth. So just kind of your opinion on teams canceling games right at the end of the season after they've been scheduled for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan. I mean, it's I think it goes against the spirit of everything. I think there was another game that was canceled last night, at least in the top 10. We never got the score for it, and it said canceled out to the side with a question mark, the guy who was getting the scores for us.
Right.
And I just, my question is why? I mean, it's not a region game, so it really wouldn't have affected much, I don't imagine, and unless there was some kind of tiebreaker that they were worried about. But, the whole idea is to play this game. I mean,
well, you only get 10 of them.
Yeah, you only get 10 regular season games. And why on earth would you not want to play one? Now, there may be some good reason. Maybe everybody on the team had COVID. Maybe 50% of the team had COVID. Maybe there were a lot of, I guess there are a lot of things.
Well, Carver played last night, so they didn't have COVID.
Well, yeah. Saraland beat Theodore last night, right? I think I saw that. I guess they scheduled them last second.
Yeah. Well, no, this is for next week.
For next week. Sorry. Okay.
Game. Yeah. This is supposed to be next week's game.
Okay.
Canceled. So
I mean, what is the reasoning. Has anybody given a reason? I haven't seen one.
I haven't seen anything other than Carver just wanted to cancel the game. So I don't know.
So,
it's just a little odd.
What I worry about then is this going to, and again, this is what I worry about when it's all in the playoffs or nothing, right? And let me equate it to the Iron Bowl for a second. Here's a scenario I can certainly envision that doesn't seem crazy at all. It seems less crazy every Saturday now. But let's say Alabama wins out until it gets to the Iron Bowl. And let's say Auburn drops another one or another two or whatever when they limp into the Iron Bowl, and let's say that they've made a coaching change. Again, none of this is crazy. So it's not like these have low percentages. Then, Auburn's going to hire a new guy, or maybe they still have Hugh, whatever, and they'll come out like their hair's on fire because that game means everything. And let's say Alabama's like, well, why in the world would we play all of our starters, anybody who's even remotely banged up? And why would we put all of our eggs into beating this team if it doesn't matter at all? And it won't, because if Alabama goes to Atlanta and wins the SEC, they're still going to be one of the top 4 seeds. Nobody's going to even blink an eye. And see, I grew up in Alex City, so the Iron Bowl means something to me. So I don't ever want it to not mean nothing.
I totally agree. I agree.
And so I'm just saying, everybody who clamored for all this expansion and it's all about the play. This is what you get. You get teams. Again, logic just tells me it's Carver going, hey, I don't understand why we're playing this game right before the playoffs. If it is next week, it's the week before the playoffs. Why are we playing this game when it doesn't do anything for us? We should play some kind of dented soup can, and or just not play them at all. It's a lot like players sitting out the bowl games, and that will trickle down into the regular season.
We've definitely seen things change, man,
and then
philosophies and all that. So,
and again, it's one of those things where it's against the spirit of the rule. We all know this. We all know it's against the spirit of the game. But something else that's been against the spirit of the game is feigning injuries. And every team that I know has been guilty of that. And because you had to be guilty of it because other teams were doing it. And if you didn't do it, it was going to burn you. So because everybody else is doing it, you had to follow suit. And now they've come up with a rule where they try to determine if they think you're faking it or not think you're faking it. And it's hard to put a rule in because every time I go, what they should do is say, if the player gets hurt and we have to stop play, that player has to come out the remainder of the drive. That seems like common sense to me. But what if the player really is hurt and he's a really important player and he's like, I can't come out no matter how hurt I am. I can't come out. And then the very next play, he gets hurt a lot worse. You know what I mean? It's a sticky wicket.
Yeah, you tried, like you say, in the spirit of the rule, try to do everything the right way, but you got people that take advantage of that. And, we got into a discussion in the first hour about the CARES Act, or the CHOOSE Act, rather. And the spirit of the rule is to help kids go find a school that they can go get a program that they need or get out of a failing school district and go to another one. In the spirit of the rule, it's great. But now, of course, people are going to use it for nefarious reasons, especially through athletics. Oh, come over here with your voucher. You can play for us. Now you start recruiting based on now you got kids with vouchers. Now you can get them into different places, private schools, other schools, whatever. So
and then they spin it. They spin it. They almost gaslight you. They're like, well, this is helping that player because he's coming to a school with better facilities and blah, blah, blah. Right. And you're like, but that's not really, we really weren't running for this. I mean, we were trying to make it, and it's like any other program that is supposed to assist people. I mean, welfare or anything, Social Security, where you're like, okay, oh man, Social Security is working great. We got all this money. So you know what we could do? We could help out this section too. We could just use a little bit of that money. And then you do that about 150,000 times. Next thing you know, Social Security is going to be broke by the time we get old enough.
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing any of that. So.
And we've been contributing to it this whole time.
That's right. No, you're exactly right. I think it's a valid point. I mean, people, when you have money involved, when there's money involved in everything that we've just talked about in this last 10-minute segment, there's a lot of money involved. When you got that, people are going to try to find a way to get their portion, and they're going to go to extreme measures to find loopholes and do whatever they got to do to get their portion of it. So,
plus, really quickly, nobody believes anything they're told unless it aligns with their beliefs.
Of course.
That
no
nobody there's a Twitter page called SEC Exposed or something, and because the SEC or somebody tweeted out something saying, "Man, the SEC, look, have you seen the teams that are most watched in the country? It's Alabama 1, Tennessee 2, Georgia 3, LSU 4." It was like all SEC teams, right?
Yeah.
And then Ohio State was like number 8, and they were like, "Well, of course that's the way it is because Disney controls everything, so they put them all on TV, so the other teams don't get seen." And nobody wants to believe anything unless it aligns with what you believe.
No, it's exactly right. You're exactly right. And, you look at things differently. I look at things differently now in my role of what I do every day with Auburn. I think if Faith was on here with us, she'd say the same thing. I'm still an Auburn fan. Obviously, I grew up in Auburn. I always pull for Auburn. That'll never leave. But when you're on the beat every day and when you're covering somebody, you got to take your emotion out of it. And some people can't do that. And I've had to learn to do that. And, now you get in a mode of you got to look and see, well, maybe that's not the best way to do things. Maybe that, and then it's my job on Saturday night and Faith's job on Saturday night to sit on the front row and ask tough questions. And I get text all the time like, well, you don't hold back. I'm like, well, I'm not supposed to. I'm not in there just for fun. And so, but some people can't remove themselves from that, especially Luke, I know you did the Locked On side. You've been doing Sports Blitz with us for a lot longer than that. And I know you're extremely passionate about Alabama. I don't think anybody, and I know it'd be tough for you to do the same thing, to sit in there and face Kalen DeBoer and ask him a tough question if you had to. I mean,
that's why I don't want to. Hey, that's why I'm purposely, I tell Jimmy all the time, he's like, well, we could get past this and do this. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'd want to be a fan who comments. And if I'm ignorant about something, people are just going to have to forgive me. Meaning, like, if I don't know the deeper side of something and people are just going to have to forgive us. And if they don't, they'll get over it. I mean, it's because when you, like you said, you were there every day and is watching the sausage be made. And it sort of takes it's like, wow, I don't, this is sort of bad. I mean, and it's not because it's Auburn and you're seeing, and they're having a bad season. It would be that way if they were having a great season and you would see something, maybe you would see a side of some of these players or coaches that you go, wow, he's really not a good dude. And we all have players on our teams and coaches on our teams that aren't good dudes. So sometimes when you get in there and you see the inner workings, it's sort of like, I don't love this.
It's different. Again, we were able to cut loose and do what we need to do on Auburn Blitz, but also being a little bit more in depth and being in the know and providing that information firsthand, has been the route that we've gone. And I think it's worked out. But yeah, it's different. When you're around it every day. There's no question about it. There absolutely no question.
There's pluses and minuses to both sides.
To everything. There's no question. All right, up against the break for TV. Stay tuned. A lot more to come right after this. Yeah, Patrick, I'm glad I'm not in the monsoon. So
were y'all ever going?
This was the game at the beginning of the year. Because of the way the Chelsea game set up, there's no way to get. There was no flight out of Birmingham to get to Fayetteville at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
You got to get in Doctor Who's telephone booth to get over to Fayetteville.
So it was going to have to be get in the car and drive all night, and we were like, there ain't no way, man.
Well, and especially considering, and you didn't know at the time, but it's 11:45.
Well, yeah, that's when we found out the 11:45. We was like, that's the only daytime game that would have been a problem. So we're like, we're gonna go do the post game show from Pepper Tree tonight.
You'll go to Nashville, won't you?
Oh yeah, we're going to Nashville.
That'd be easy.
100%. Yep. So your Missouri trip wasn't the most fun?
No, it was fun enough. It just there's no zhuzh in Missouri. I mean, it's like
Missouri's football team. Like, look, Auburn should have won the game. It's just they
got some good players, and
there's nothing exciting about Missouri's football.
No, they just Missouri was about as exciting as I would have thought Missouri is. I mean, it's Columbia. It's a pretty big town. I mean, I don't know exactly how big, but we went to this place called Harpo's, and everybody told us to go there, and it was sort of like people were looking at us like there were a bunch of Alabama folks. They were looking around, going, "What are y'all doing here?" there's a football game like at 11 o'clock in the morning. Y'all are ranked in near the top 10 or in the top 10, and we are too. It's the biggest game y'all have hosted in God knows how long. And people are like, yeah, what time again tomorrow? I'm like, what is wrong with y'all? I almost wanted to revoke their SEC card. Like any other SEC place would have been going nuts. Well, and then after I talked about it on the show, somebody said, oh, you went to the wrong places. I was like, well, they told us to go to Harpo's. And then the other night I heard they had the DeCoaches show from Harpo's. So I was like, I think we went to the right place. I'm just shocked. Nobody was worried about it. Like not worried about it in the sense that, oh, we're going to beat Alabama's butt. Like not worried about it as in, is that tomorrow? Let's do tomorrow. So it was just sort of, and there are some people that are big into it, but I'm used to going to SEC games and seeing a bunch of other stuff. And not that this is the way you want people to behave. I only saw one Missouri fan shoot one bird to one group of Alabama fans. I'm like, there's the SEC. It's almost a greeting when you go to a visitor's place. So I'm used to seeing all the various signs, the European ones, the American ones.
All right, 5 seconds.
Yeah.
All different versions.
Yeah.
The Top Gun version.
Yeah.
Inverted. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Sunshine Heating and Air. We got 30 minutes left on the show. Get your comments in. Got football on tap, obviously, today. Let's dive into it. We'll start with, obviously, the SEC and go down the list. And when you look at this, Alabama, we'll start with Alabama, Luke, for you guys. South Carolina. I was on the Gary Harris show yesterday, as I always am every Friday in Tuscaloosa. And he was talking about, that South Carolina game in 2010. And, and he and I have had some discussions about that. I still think that may have been the most talented Alabama team in 2010. And it did not win anything that year because they had a hiccup against South Carolina, and then they end up losing the Iron Bowl in a crazy fashion that year.
Lost LSU.
And then, and lost. It just was a very, when you look at Alabama's defense that year, I think every single player that started on that defense made it to the NFL.
Saban talked about it on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. He said, look, we won the title in 09, 11, and 12. And he said, I think 2010 was our best team. He said, but the problem was I was battling complacency all year. And that goes to show you, what is it? Fatigue can make cowards of us all. Complacency can let anybody beat anybody else. If you don't show up, it's more true today than it is back then. But if you didn't show up every single week last week, you were going to get beat. And, LSU was still pretty powerful back then. Auburn had one of their best teams, of my lifetime. South Carolina was, they had Alshon Jeffrey, they had Marcus Lattimore, they
were loaded, man. They had a good football
team. Gilmore. Yeah. They had dudes, and they were coached by one of the greats of all time. And Alabama walked into a hornet's nest and just sort of acted like, we'll roll the ball out there and get them. And you can't do that. So that was painful. But I do say this. I say that I really believe that game was a learning experience. And then, yes, they went on to lose a couple more games that year for sure. But I guess that whole year was more of a learning experience because they did go on to win the very next two championships. And if Alabama had been able to keep Auburn out of the end zone late in that game, they would have gone on and probably won their third straight championship. So it was still a good run. I'm excited about it, but I remember that game pretty vividly. Now I'll say this: that South Carolina team ain't this South Carolina team.
Oh no, not even close. Not even close.
I think LaNorris Sellers overall is a better quarterback than Steven Garcia. Steven Garcia had his Zach Calzada, Johnny Manziel moment in that Alabama game, but LaNorris Sellers would be probably one of the first 2 or 3 quarterbacks picked in the draft, and Steven Garcia obviously wasn't. But this South Carolina team, they'll put up a fight. They'll be strong, but they are 3-4.
Well, I tried to tell everybody before the season, Luke, that anytime you place high expectations on South Carolina, they're going to do what they do, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. They're 3-4. Again, I know this was a close game last year for Alabama. Alabama had to win that game late, but this is just not a very good South Carolina team. They're just not. And Lenore Sellers had all these aspirations. And I think like you said, he's still a good quarterback, but he can't do it by himself. And so I just don't see the pieces around this South Carolina team to get this done. I'm going to ask you a question though. You go back to the first of the season in Alabama and Florida State. What's so different now? Because you look at Ty Simpson and what happened in that game, and I remember watching you and Jimmy and y'all talking about it, and I know there was a lot of Alabama fans that were ready to. And I think you said this, Luke. Correct me if I'm wrong. That Ty Simpson wasn't the guy, for this team.
I'll tell you what I said. I said Ty Simpson. It was not Ty Simpson's fault. That game was not Ty Simpson's fault. In fact, he played better of most.
Right. I remember saying that. I think he was getting a lot of unfair blame by people for everybody wanting to crucify him.
But what I said was, I have no problem admitting this. I said, you know what? Maybe this team does need a quarterback change, though. I said maybe he's fine, but they're not following him for some reason. I don't know what it is, and I can't put my finger on it. It was so bad and so out of character that I was like, the only thing I know to create a spark is to change quarterbacks. You don't get a spark when you change tight ends. You just don't get a spark. Something changes in the team when you change quarterbacks, though. Now, little did I know, and again, this is a complete tribute to the coaching staff, to Ty Simpson in particular, and to the rest of the team, but they took it upon themselves to create their own spark just as they were. And the next week, I know it was ULM, and Jimmy and I both said this, that, man, y'all can say it's just ULM, but we know what we saw last Saturday was what we thought we'd be seeing more of. It's almost too good to be true. So we're going to back it down a little bit, but that is how you want to respond. They can't help that ULM was just next on the schedule, and they buried them, and they played great, and it could have been even worse. And then the next week, they play a Wisconsin team that we all know is not very good, but still look just as sharp. And then they go into Georgia, and we're like, okay, if they can keep playing this sharp, they can beat Georgia. And that's what they do. And they've really sort of played that sharp all the way through. Ty Simpson now, I think 18 touchdowns and 1 interception, and he's probably the leader for the Heisman. And who would have thunk it? And I think it is sort of the Mandela effect for people to look back and go, yeah, everybody wanted Ty Simpson benched. And I wouldn't say I necessarily wanted him benched, but I did think, okay, that may be the only way to get better. I didn't know that this team had it in it. After the Florida State game, I was so down on this squad. I went on the national football the college football reaction show, the national show, and I had a bag on my head. Like I was sitting just like this with a paper sack on my head going, that's how embarrassed I was. It was so embarrassing that Florida State fans weren't even screwing with us. They were almost like, man, we're kind of sorry about that. It was bad. And so for them to pick themselves up by their bootstraps and go this route and look good doing it and have, go 4 ranked wins in a row without an off week. No SEC team's ever done that. And so it's mind-boggling to think this is the same squad. So I understand when people like Danny Cannell get their panties wadded up a little bit, that he's like, well, everybody's saying Alabama can win the championship, but I just can't discount that Florida State loss. Okay, that is very fair. I'm not going to argue with you. If you don't want to have Alabama in the top 4 right now like they currently are, you're not going to get an argument out of me, because I think that loss should mean something. However, I think just like 2010, on a much smaller sense, that Florida State loss may be the impetus for the reason that this Alabama team goes on to do big things.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you don't see a lot of resolve in teams after they start off a season like that to be able to turn around and do what Alabama's doing right now. So, again, like you said, they kind of found it within themselves, but it was just crazy. Not a good start for Ty Simpson to the season. It was not a good game.
But again, it wasn't his fault. It was just 6-7, whatever the kids say. But it was just sort of like he was fine. He wasn't the problem. But it's sort of like, if you got a car, and I don't need to use a car metaphor.
It was more defensively for Alabama than it was offensively.
Oh, yeah. And that Ryan Williams was dropping everything.
Hey, where's Ryan Williams gone, by the way?
Well, he was, little did I know, he was kind of banged up. He took a concussion in the Florida State game.
He didn't even get targeted in the Missouri game, though.
No, he was, and I was shocked. I did find out later, okay, he was a total decoy that entire game. He wanted to play, and we were like, okay, but you're not really gonna factor in this thing because
how does that happen though in a game?
He was banged up.
He was banged up.
Yeah, we were not going to target him. It just wasn't going to happen. And then against Tennessee, even though he only had 5 catches, I think for 90 something yards and no touchdowns, he also had a nice reverse. He blocked his tail off. He's finally healthy, and so it's not going to shock me at all if he has a game like he had against Wisconsin, which he should have had 3 touchdowns, only had 2. But he's I think the game against Tennessee may have been one of Ryan's. The reason is he 5 catches for about 95 yards, which is very, very nice. No touchdowns, but he didn't have any of those like, hey, break your ankles, double spin move, hit the B button, whatever people say. He had just some really incredible catches. He didn't drop anything. And I think he needed to learn, okay, I can contribute without being this spectacular event. I need to be able to just make the regular catches. Because if you do the catch like you had against Georgia last year, that's great. But then if you can't catch a routine screen, it sort of counteracts itself. So you got to be able to do the small stuff and do the big stuff.
Well, you think you're expecting a game out of him today? Pretty big.
I am. I'm expecting a big game out of him and Jeremy Bernard. And Ty Simpson.
He's the best receiver on the team for Alabama, for sure.
Bernard is really, I could make the case for Lottie Brooks being the best receiver on the team. He has caught the most clutch passes. I mean, I'm ranking the top 5 catches of the year that are clutch. I mean, Lottie Brooks has probably got 2 or 3 of them, and he's out today. I think he sprained an ankle. There were some people saying he was sick, but I think it's an ankle. And he's been great. And so looking forward to him getting some rest and being back for LSU and down the stretch run. But Jeremy Bernard is the best doing everything. I mean, last week, Tennessee should have had him for about a 10-yard loss. He turns it into an 18-yard gain on one of those thing that was going to be like a throwback, but Tennessee guarded it well. And they had him cornered, and he just gets out of it. It was pretty incredible. He's a great receiver, and he's worked his way into first-round discussion. Again, you would have, knocked me over with a feather if you had told me that at the beginning of the year.
All right, let's take a break for TV. We come back, got a couple more segments coming your way here on the Saturday Sports Countdown.
Where are you going to go watch it?
We're going to go to Kalijah for the first half, then I'm going to Pepper Tree to do the show.
Are y'all doing the show from Kalijah?
No, we're just going to the watch party. Leigh Martin, Auburn Club.
Auburn Club. Do they have big crowds at that?
Yeah, usually turn out pretty big. Now, I don't know if this one will be. But, ridiculous, man. Just ridiculous. No explanation other than just poor offense. Defense is great. Defense is elite. Auburn's got an elite defense. They don't have a good defense. They got an elite defense. The numbers show it.
I just don't know what you're going to – it's so wild. Like, what do you do?
It's hard to be so good on one side of the ball and so bad on one side of the ball at the same time. I mean, usually if you're a mediocre team, you're not really good on either side. You don't really have an elite defense and a terrible offense, or an elite offense and terrible. And Arkansas and Auburn are the imps of each other. Arkansas's got an elite offense and a horrendous defense. And it's the flip on Auburn. Auburn's got a phenomenal defense and horrendous offense. So,
I don't understand. Somebody's just going to have to explain to me how you, speaking of that spark, how you couldn't have changed Jackson Arnold by now.
That's what I'm saying. He has just been so stubborn about.
I would have tried anything. I would have tried literally anything. It's just not working. And the moment he faces, again, talk about the Georgia thing and did it cross it or not. But the moment he faces adversity, it's going into a shell. And
well, trust me, I see it every day. So you talking to the choir on that, and that's something we discuss, and we've asked him that question. We've asked that question, so I get the same answers over and over. So it just is what it is. Yeah. It don't matter at this point. You got to now Auburn's got to make a decision whether they're going to make a change or not, and who that change is going to be, and how that's going to work its way out. But I tell everybody all the time, it's not where I'm not worried about recruiting. Like, recruiting takes care of itself. Like, you go out, you got good players now. You're not taking advantage of what you got, and so you got to go get another coach and then another coach. It's a culture change, man. I mean, you know how it is.
Oh, yeah.
You lived it. I mean, you lived it.
Yeah. It's tough to. I mean, and that's the word. That word gets so overused, with culture and stuff like that. I'll tell you something, Andy. What do we got? 10 seconds or something?
I have no idea. So he hints anything yet. So.
Well, no, I'll tell you what. I don't know. Did you see the show Tuesday with Andy and me?
Yeah.
I'll talk about something we talked about.
Okay.
Justin says Arnold played well past 2 first halves. I mean, I think he played okay. I mean, well, let's not go nuts.
Get your take on the official stuff too. So. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill, Sunshine Heating and Air. A couple segments left here on the show this morning. Just kind of shift over, talk a little bit about Auburn. And real quick, and Luke, I do this on a daily basis like you do with Auburn, with Alabama. So, we all know what the problems are. The diagnosis of it's simple. It's very simple. It comes down to lack of offense, and there's really nowhere else to look. Defense has played elite. It's played well enough to win every game the last 2 years. Just cannot figure it out. And stubbornness from Hugh Freeze with the quarterback situation and all that kind of stuff. You got to have to – it's inevitable. So you and I have said this before. If it's inevitable, why not immediate? So what are you waiting on? What is the advantage to waiting to make a decision? So unless Auburn's got somebody lined up, they know they're going to come in and be the next head coach, and they're like, well, we don't want to put DJ Durkin in as interim and have to go through all that, him win out possibly, and
then have to fight that off.
So, I don't know what the answer is, but there's going to be a change coming, and it's just a matter of when.
It sure feels that way. And, Andy and I got into this thing on Tuesday, and I want people to clearly understand what I'm saying, because we talked about how Florida is going to be looking for a coach. They've already fired theirs, and some other places. LSU may be looking for a coach. If they don't win today, that you got to say right. Can't. It's not going to get any better. You've hit the ceiling. So there. And I said, Eli Drinkwitz is mixed up in a lot of these games, and I said, but if you're Eli Drinkwitz and you've got Missouri right now, you're winning about 10 games a year.
Yeah.
And, the expectations are lower and you're making big money. You're making serious. If Signetti's making 12, 13, I assume Eli's making about 9 or 10. I don't know exactly, but I'm sure. And he'll probably get a bump this year if they keep winning. Why would you go to Auburn? Now, I get Florida a little bit because Florida, I still maintain, has the best resources outside of Texas in the country. But you could go to Auburn. You're surrounded by Georgia. You're surrounded by Alabama. You're surrounded by and everybody's uber competitive. And Auburn is just as passionate as these other places. And I'm telling you, I just went to Missouri. They're not as passionate. So you can go there and you win 9 games, 10. You have a dip to 8 games one year. Nobody's probably calling for your head, or if they are, it's not the big booster because you provided them enough. And so my point was, historically, and probably in the future, maybe way in the future, nobody's going to ever argue Missouri's a better program than Auburn. Nobody'd be that crazy. Right this very minute, Missouri's a better program. Now,
there's no question about it.
And Andy just couldn't buy that. And I said, but I'm talking about
Missouri in the current
this minute
is a better program.
Yes.
I agree.
So, and he says at Auburn, you can win it all. Can you do that in Missouri? Well, Justin,
I'm going to ask you. Here's why I'm going to agree with you on that, Luke, because if y'all take you back to all the mics that y'all went through, that has nothing to do with the history of Alabama. But 100%. At that point in time, there were teams that were better.
100%.
When you can be better in the moment.
I said, what do you think? I said, Dennis Franchione was our 6th choice.
That's what I'm saying. Historically, Missouri's not on the same page with Auburn. But right now, in the current stage,
and here's the thing. And this is what I tried to tell him. Look, Andy, if you had told me 30 years ago that Nebraska would be swimming in the doldrums, and that like it used to be, if Nebraska was on your schedule, I'm going to mark that as an L. I'm going to be hopeful, but that's going to be an L.
Yeah.
And now if
you
Nebraska's on your schedule,
homecoming.
it doesn't even fire you up. The tickets on SeatGeek don't even go up. And Justin said at Auburn, you can win it all. Can you do that at Missouri? The one thing I would counter with, Justin, Auburn could win it all back in 2010, and they could have probably 2013. That was all BCS era stuff. Is different times, and now we've got this expansion that you championed for, you wanted, and now we're getting Indiana's in there. Now we're getting Bleeding Hearts that are like, we have to get a group of 5 in there, and we got to get, we got to get Missouri in there, and Vandy's in the dead gum picture. So my point is that the playoffs may have made it even worse for teams that are right on the edge.
Jason Caldwell said this on our show, and I know we got to get to our last break, but he said, everybody better understand that with this, now teams that you thought were not going to be in play for a 5-star top player, they can sell out and beat an Alabama or an Auburn head-to-head.
What's Texas Tech doing?
Where did they come from? This is
They have one billionaire former player that's like, I don't want my team to suck anymore. So he's going out and buying it. Now, it may backfire because you know, and I know.
But right now, they've got them up there where they haven't been.
And you and I both know this, that if you have a bunch of players that don't really want to be at your university, but they are because of extenuating circumstances, they probably aren't going to play as hard. And we also know, you and I know this, that if they don't respect the opponents in the SEC, we will get our noses kicked.
Hey, and I tell you what, I think that's happening all across the board for every school. And I think the colors of the uniform matter less and less every day. And I don't think there's, like you just said, I'm from Alex City, you're from Alex City. The Iron Bowl means something. Always going to mean something to us. Doesn't mean anything to a lot of people anymore. Tennessee, Alabama game, 3rd Saturday in October. We keep talking about all that stuff. Nobody cares. It doesn't even have the same feel.
It doesn't have the same effect. It doesn't have the same because it's just I just talked about
it. It's transactional. Everything is transactional.
It's not going to bother everything. If some of Auburn, if it were the roles were reversed or whatever, but if Alabama or Auburn guys sit out the Iron Bowl because they're like, this game just doesn't mean anything in the grand picture. That's what I was scared of. Yes, I'm enjoying.
I think we're on the borderline of that. So
yeah.
All right, we got to take a break here on the show. We'll come back. One final segment here on the Saturday Sports Countdown.
And, I keep hearing these national shows. So isn't it so great that Indiana now has a shot that, before UAB, the Memphis has a shot and that Missouri has a shot, and that Vandy has a shot. I'm like, okay, but now here's the problem. We got to watch these teams in the playoffs. And last year I watched Indiana and Notre Dame, and that game was as much fun as watching UAB take on Jackson State.
No, it was terrible. It was a horrific game. And now you got – look, and some people may say, well, this is great. And everybody's entitled to their own opinion. We live in a world now where Vanderbilt's got a 5-star committed quarterback to Georgia visiting this weekend to look at the program. And look, kudos to Clark Lee. And look, we know Bella. She's from Alex City. She's director of recruiting up there. I love Bella. Doing a great job. They had a vision. Now that the NIL stuff, people are buying in. Diego Pavia has brought a lot of stardom to Nashville. They've always had the city there, and now they're actually taking advantage of it. And so, yeah, on one side, I can see why people are going, yeah, this is cool. We got a lot of teams that never had a chance up until now. But now what you're saying for the ones of us, all of us, Alabama included, you're not just going to go out there and grab that 5-star guy and come, because now maybe an Iowa sells out on that one guy and pays him astronomical amounts of money, and you lose him and you go, well, that would have been a player in the past for us, but we don't have him now. Now we got to go find somebody else. And you got to manage. And Jason was talking about the roster management and the budget. Everybody's got a budget. Alabama's got a budget. Auburn's got a budget. Everybody's got a budget, except I guess Texas Tech. Hell, they ain't got one. So, but there's a lot of factors in this thing, and it's changed whether you like it or not.
Well, I think, it just dawned on me. It's kind of like all these other social programs where they think, okay, we're going to sort of help everybody. What it typically does, it might help the lowest class some, like from just being completely gone. and it somehow helps the ultra wealthy, but it's the middle class that gets squeezed. And you think about, okay, if you think about college football hierarchy, you're going to have Alabama and Ohio State, and I guess you got to put Texas in there but I hate doing it. But I'm saying, if you look at Auburn, they're upper middle class. They're right there on the cusp of,
yes,
but they're getting squeezed right now because because of what's going on. It was because everybody, nobody has blinked an eye. Then Indiana said, we're not going to schedule anybody tough. Shoot, we're going to keep playing Pisgah and Alexandria, and that's who we're going to play in the non-conference, because we don't have to play. And now we play non-conference games. And somebody ought to say, no, that you can't do that. And unless somebody holds their feet to the fire, I don't care that they go to Oregon and win. I think it's great. I think it is good for them, good for their program. But if you don't play anybody in the non-con and you come out and say, I'm not going to, I feel like somebody ought to hold that against you, because it's not fair that Auburn has to go to Baylor and then play the SEC schedule, and then Indiana can play 3 junior colleges and then play their conference schedule that doesn't include Ohio State. That sucks.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown. Final segment here on the show. All good points. Let's quickly go through the remainder of the schedule here this morning. Ole Miss and Oklahoma get things kicked off first right out of the gate here in just about 2 hours.
That's about the time Sila's soccer game will be starting, so I'll just let y'all tell me how it went.
Sorry to bring up bad stuff.
Listen, I'm telling y'all, I'm getting so anti-soccer now, you don't even know what.
You just thought communism was bad. All right, Alabama and South Carolina, we talked about that. Missouri, Vanderbilt. Hey, 2 6-1 teams, 230. Can Vanderbilt keep doing what they're doing?
Greg Bargezzi as the guest picker for game day. I think that's awesome. He's one of my favorite comedians. But yeah, I mean, it's actually a fun game. I cannot believe it.
It's very
fun. I'll have it on.
Yeah, Missouri's not as good as their record. I'm just going to say that. That's
crazy
to say that.
And it's wild because Ahmad Harvey, I think he's the best running back in the league, and he's got those Tina Turner thighs that he just runs over everybody. And but Alabama and Auburn both held him in check.
I was going to say both teams did a really good job shutting him down. Texas at Mississippi State.
Look, no, that's not a. I'm calling my shot now. Those cowbells. If Arch think Kentucky, Kroger Field was intimidating, you wait till you get to that. Mississippi State still got one of those big screen TVs that your grandmama has. That's their scoreboard. It's got the big back to it, and it doesn't even plug in with the HDMI. You got to plug it, and it's got rabbit ears, and that place is going to have cowbells. And Archie's going to look around and go, Daddy, what's wrong? And I'm telling you, Mississippi State's going to get after his butt today.
3:15. They had to just find a time slot for this game.
Well, they almost called it off due to lack of interest.
No doubt. A&M at LSU. I like A&M in this game.
I like A&M too. I just, and plus, look,
how much Brian Kelly has no pizzazz at all.
I loved Ed Orgeron being in the league, even though he was, could rub you the wrong way, because I thought he was LSU personified. He's the human crawdad. That's what he is. And he's your and you're like, okay, what did you say? He sounded, every time he talked, it sounded like he was talking through the intercom at Burger King. And you're like, you don't know what he's saying. But he was LSU personified.
You're right.
Brian Kelly is
Brian Kelly is what Brian Kelly is down there at the opening thing.
Brian Kelly is what every other ethnicity thinks white people are always like. Brian Kelly is like when if you ask somebody who's Hispanic, like, describe a white person, like, just draw it. They just draw Brian Kelly, like, right.
Everybody at LSU, they're hoping they lose so they can get rid of him. All right, Tennessee at Kentucky. Man, nobody cares. I mean, really.
No, but why is that line only 7.5?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird
because Kentucky is flat out.
I'm taking Tennessee.
I am too. I'm taking Tennessee big. I'm just wondering, like, why?
Yeah. Sometimes they just throw a wrench in there, just kind of make you think like this. Some things that make you go, like that song. All right, that's going to wrap us up here on TV. We'll stay up for about 1 minute, and then Luke's got to go to soccer. So we appreciate everybody that watches every single week. We'll be back with you next week for more of the Saturday Sports Countdown. All right, everybody. So, I'm going on about 3 hours sleep. So I'm going to go down there and sit in the shower for about an hour. Just let it.
Well, you got bass, scales, and fish and gunk all over you.
I like fish and everything. So yeah. But all right. Well, appreciate it, Luke. Thank you for jumping on the second hour, man. All right, I'll see you next week.
All right, buddy. See you.
All right, see you.